Ross Chastain becomes the 11th different winner this season while the championship fight continues to heat up with 9 races remaining in the regular season. Let's talk about NASCAR under the lights in Music City. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR at Nashville under the lights, where Ross Chastain gets his first win this season and his third career win. We'll talk about that. That makes the championship battle heat up a little bit. We'll take a look at the playoff grid, and of course we'll take a look at some of the front runners today and a few guys that were running up front and had a lot of speed but made some mistakes. We'll break it all down. It was an exciting race tonight in Nashville, but in the end it was Ross Chastain that smashed the watermelon once again for the third time on the front straightaway, for the first time at Nashville and for the first time in 2023. And this is a big win for Ross Chastain. You heard the guys on NBC talking about it, but it really is, because if you look at Ross Chastain's previous 2 wins, one of those coming at a road course, which is Circuit of the Americas, and like I said, NBC made this point as well, and one of those coming at Talladega. Well, you have a lot of different winners at Talladega. Plenty of drivers have won at that specific race track. Same thing with the road courses. You have drivers that don't typically win championships that can win at Talladega and that can win at road courses. That doesn't mean they're not talented. They just maybe have a different type of talent. Like AJ Allmendinger, for example, next week at Chicago, I think he has a great chance to win the race. Are we looking at him for championship favorite? Not at all. And there's nothing wrong with that. But with those 2 wins for Ross Chastain, I think it's big to get this win at a more familiar racetrack, an intermediate style track, just over a mile long, banked. It looks like a normal NASCAR racetrack. It looks like your typical intermediate style track that you go to and you run the same package, where we have more of those on the schedule. That is the majority of the schedule, or tracks like these, obviously. So I definitely think it definitely brings Ross Chastain into the talk of, more of a driver excelling his career. He's now won at a road course, won at Talladega, but now he has that typical track win, which I think definitely says a lot. Now, he's been fast at these types of racetracks all year. We talked about how he was a little bit slow the last few weeks, but at the beginning of the year, he came out like a cannon, was super consistent, had a good chance to win in Fontana. Kyle Busch took that away from him. He's been up front in a few other races. You look at Darlington when he was on the front row on a late race restart, got caught up in some mess on that, but Ross Chastain was able to do everything right tonight, maneuver through lap traffic just perfectly, without causing a big mistake, without causing a wreck, was able to block Truex, hold him off for a long period of time there at the end of this race, a long green flag run. I believe we went the entire final stage without a caution, and Ross Chastain was able to capitalize on everything. So a big statement tonight for Ross Chastain. Is he the championship favorite? Not yet. Does he have a potential to become one? I think so. He's had a lot of speed, like I said, all year long, just hasn't got the wins. Got to be a little more consistent, though. We want to see him get some more wins before we can consider him a championship favorite. But it's definitely possible with the way this season's going and the way things change from the first half of the season going into this portion of the season. Things tend to change a little bit. So let's take a look at the top 10. We'll go through the entire top 10 here. Like I said, Ross Chastain smashed the watermelon on the front straightaway. Exciting finish there. Martin Truex Jr. was trying to run him down there on the final run. Truex seemed to be faster on the short runs. Chastain was a little bit faster on the long run. So once Chastain got the clean air past those lap cars, it was really over for Martin Truex Jr. It was going to be very difficult for him to catch him. He was never able to catch him. He stayed within a second of him. Sometimes he'd get it down to about a half a second, maybe a little bit less of Ross Chastain, but it was just never able to get up to him. And once again, obviously never able to get past him on that long final run. You had Denny Hamlin, who led some tonight, ended up finishing in the 3rd position, so a decent run for him. You talked about him. You heard in his post-race interview where he said he just wants to get more consistent, learn how to get those consistent results. Not a crazy race where a whole bunch of stuff goes wrong. Denny Hamlin, super consistent tonight. No big mistakes on pit road by the team. No pit road speeding penalties by Denny Hamlin himself. Solid run tonight. 3rd place finish for Denny Hamlin. He wanted to get the win, but at least he got a solid, decent run tonight in Nashville. You have Chase Elliott, once again, another one of those drivers. They're talking about how he could point his way into the playoffs, but I think if you're looking at Chase Elliott, you want to consider him in a must-win situation. It is possible that he points his way in, but once again, 1 win counts as 5 bonus points per round of the playoffs. Those are very valuable. And of course, a win guarantees you into the NASCAR playoffs. So I think if you're Chase Elliott in the 9 team, obviously points are somewhat important, but I think getting the playoff points and the race wins should be the top priority for Chase Elliott. That's just what I think looking at their situation. They can mathematically point their way in, but I think you got to be looking at it as a must-win situation with 9 races remaining in the regular season. Kyle Larson with a solid run tonight ended up finishing in the 5th position. William Byron, another one of those Hendrick Chevrolets, finishing in the 6th position. William Byron's another one of those drivers, as like I said, the playoff bubble continues to heat up, where he said following that Darlington race, they've kind of slowed down on the speed a little bit. They've anywhere from a 3rd place race car at best to a 7th place race car at worst, and well, he finished 6th tonight, so that falls right in the category of where he said he's been running lately. Definitely need to find that edge, find a little bit more speed to get back into victory lane. Once again, Byron is one of those drivers with 3 wins this season, all of them coming on overtime restarts, but William Byron just got to try to find a little bit more speed and see if he can get back to victory lane. If you look at last year and maybe even a couple years before that, William Byron starts out really strong, continues to fade as we get closer to the playoffs and into the second half of the season. As we're now into the second half of the season, will William Byron fade and fall from a winning driver to a top 10 driver? We don't know. We have to continue to watch. Maybe he can get over that hump and get back to winning form, William Byron. Christopher Bell, another solid run, had a really rough last couple of weeks. We talked about at the beginning of the year how he was the best Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. He's definitely fallen off from that at the time being. He does have 1 win this year, so he is guaranteed in the playoffs. Finished 7th tonight, which is decent, but definitely, once again, you have Denny Hamlin running in the top 3. You have Martin Truex Jr. trying to go for the win up there in the top 3 as well. You have Tyler Reddick in another Toyota that's up front. Had winning speed tonight. We'll talk about his mistake in a little bit. You have Eric Jones in the 43 car. We talked about how this was a throwaway season for Legacy Motor Club. This has been an awful year for the 43 car and Noah Gragson in the 42 car. It has been a disastrous nightmare season for the 43 car of Eric Jones. Nothing has gone right all year long, but a solid effort tonight to finish in the top 10. Found some speed. 8th place finish tonight in that Chevrolet, so congratulations to Eric Jones. Finding a little bit of speed, getting in the top 10. I know it's going to boost his confidence a little bit. Kyle Busch, he had a terrible night from the get-go. It was a punch in the face. He went to the back, to the front, to the back, to the front multiple times tonight. Kyle Busch, at the beginning of the race, has a rear tire go down, has to come down pit road, goes a lap down, is able to get back up into the top 10 using strategy, finds his way into the top 10, consistently running there, then gives himself another one of those pit road speeding penalties that he needs to start avoiding. Obviously, Kyle Busch got the pit road speeding penalty. Then gets caught up in a wreck with Ryan Blaney. Obviously, I'll show that a little bit later. Goes back to the back of the field once again, but is able to come back up after those 3 incidents and still get a top 10 finish. So congrats to Kyle Busch on finishing in the top 10 in 9th. AJ Allmendinger, another one of those drivers, the colleague racing car, number 16, took a few years off from the Cup Series, but is back now. Really had a bad start. I would say a bad start to the 2023 season. Got caught up in a lot of wrecks, did not get good results whatsoever. Finished in the back a lot, but he's starting to show more speed. We saw where he's fast on the road courses. He was fast last week at Sonoma, not winning speed, but was consistently in the top 10. AJ Allmendinger, 10th place tonight at Nashville, an oval racetrack, going into, once again, another one of those drivers right now that's 24 points below the cut line. He can point his way into the playoffs right now. If we don't get any new winners below the cut line, it's very possible. AJ Allmendinger going to the Chicago Street Course, going to a couple of road courses we have over the summer portion with that 10th place finish, could potentially, if he continues to run consistent at the road courses, needs to take advantage of that, and consistently at the ovals, could point his way into the NASCAR playoffs. Just depends on who he's racing against. We'll obviously break that down a little bit more later on as well. So let's talk about a couple of the guys that were running up front but had bad results. Kevin Harvick's obviously one of those. He was in 4th. Looked like he would have had something for the leaders. He was starting to gain on the top 3. It was like a 3-car battle with Chastain, Truex, and Hamlin for the win for quite some time there in that final run. Harvick was trying to work his way up in there. I know he was like 8th, 7th, 6th, then up to 4th, and trying to catch the 3rd place driver, Denny Hamlin. And then once again, another one of those victims of the tire failure. A tire failure on Kevin Harvick's car, goes to the back of the pack, completely takes him out for any shot to win this race. Once again, let's take a look at what happened here with Ryan Blaney. This was on one of the restarts following Tyler Reddick's incident. You see here, just gets stacked up from the front of the field, and it all gets stacked up from there on back. Kyle Busch gets involved. Ryan Blaney gets involved. Like I said, Kyle Busch was able to come back, get a 9th place finish, but Ryan Blaney, unfortunately, not having the best run of his life tonight, but unfortunately that hard hit to the inside concrete wall, definitely have a conversation about making that a safer barrier in the future for sure. That's definitely a very serious topic right now. And I'm sure they'll make that a safer wall. With a hard hit for Ryan Blaney, luckily he crawled out of the race car and he looked to be okay. Ryan Blaney unfortunately wrecked out early tonight after showing a lot of speed so far this season with one win right now, but want to continue to watch what Ryan Blaney can do moving forward after this unfortunate crash for him. Another one of those, the reason we actually had this restart was because of Tyler Reddick coming on pit road and spinning. Tyler Reddick was leading the race, was able to get by Ross Chastain early on in the race. Looked like he could be a threat to win the event. Definitely was a threat to win the event in that 45 Toyota. Comes on pit road. It's like a wheel falls off as he's coming on pit road. The wheel falls off. Obviously, this cost Tyler Reddick a ton of time, potentially damaged the car. I believe he went 2 laps down from this incident, completely taking him out for any chance to win the race. So that was really unfortunate for him as well. Also gave him a penalty with that wheel coming off as well. Let's take a look at the playoff bubble now. Once again, 9 races remain in the regular season. You still have your multiple time winners, four drivers with multiple wins so far this season. But with Ross Chastain getting that win this season, that pushes him up from 11th on the playoff standings without a win to 5th on the playoff leaderboard with a win. And he's now the top driver in points, in playoff points, with one win this NASCAR season. So definitely impressive for Ross Chastain, kind of showing some muscle. That 5th place driver right now, once again, that one driver, the top driver with one single win this NASCAR season. Kevin Harvick, once again, guaranteed. I think he's for sure, unless something absolutely insane happens, he's in the NASCAR playoffs. I could say the same for Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher. Just run with the speed I'm seeing out of those 3 cars. I don't expect them to miss the playoffs this season unless potentially we got 3 winners below the cut line, which I don't think will happen. Bubba Wallace had a good night tonight, was running in the top, actually finished in the 15th position. I believe he got a few stage points, so was able to capitalize on a decent finish tonight for Bubba Wallace. He's now 30 points above the cut line, actually gaining on that cut line as well. Daniel Suarez, 2 points above, had a somewhat okay night tonight. Daniel Suarez ended up finishing in the 12th position tonight. And then, of course, you had Ty Gibbs finishing in the 4th position. He's now 10 points below. Alex Bowman, 2 points below. So that's a really tight battle there. But like I said, I think you want to be 15th, as we could get a guy like Chase Elliott to get a win. Somebody at a road course race get a win. Daytona finishes out the regular season. You really want to be 15th right now if you're racing for points. AJ Allmendinger, like I said, I talked about him earlier, 24 points below. And Michael McDowell continuing to improve with that program, now 27 points below. So that's it. That's really all there is to talk about following tonight's, I thought it was a pretty solid race at Nashville. We go to the Chicago Street Course next week, which is going to be really interesting. Don't know what we'll see. That race is at 5:30, so it should be interesting. We'll have to see what happens. Of course, tune into Dirty Air following that race at Chicago next week. I'll post a review following the race next week. And of course, like and subscribe if you like the video. Share it if you'd like somebody else to see it. And that's really all there is to talk about. And of course, about Kyle Busch having some issues tonight, finishing 9th. Let's get rowdy.